be turned off or set for silent alert. And now I'd like to introduce to you Roseanne S. from St. George, Utah.
Oh, hi ladies, hi sisters. I'm an addict. My name is Roseanne. Thank you. I am so excited to be here today with all of you women. The more women I keep seeing come in the room, and the more my heart just gets filled and filled. And I do some audience participation sometimes when I share, so I want you all to close your eyes. Just close your eyes. And think of the very last time that you were out there using, and you were in a lot of pain, and you were ripping and running, and needing to cry out for help, and maybe crying out for help. And something happened that changed your life. And I just want to tell you that today you're living in the miracle, in the process, and women do recover. Open your eyes and look around you. It really blows my mind, because years ago when I got clean, there were very, very few women. Very few. And look at us today. First of all, I want to thank the committee for asking me to come out and share my experience, strength, and hope. It's always an honor. It's always an honor to be able to carry the message of Narcotics Anonymous to an addict. And it's really an honor to be here with you women, because I really believe that we need a message said today. And I know that my higher power works through me. I mean, I will definitely share my experience, strength, and hope, but I know today, this morning, there probably are some things that you're gonna hear and that you're gonna say to your friend or nudge them and say, oh my God, I really needed to hear that. Or you know that your friend is going through a lot and you hear a message and you know that that's what your friend needed to hear or that you needed to hear. Well, I can tell you today that I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what you need to hear, but a higher power knows what you need to hear. So if you hear your message, you just say thanks to your higher power, because that's really where it's coming from. I'm just fortunately the instrument, and I'm grateful to be that instrument. But we all know that if we're not listening, we're not going to hear it. So I would suggest, if you really want to hear a message, that we need to listen. See, I didn't know I needed to listen. I'd go to a meeting, and the meeting would start, and the prayer would start, and I'd feel good because I'd say, I'm prayer to prayer, I got here on time today. And then before I knew it, everybody was circling up, and the meeting was over, and I never knew what went on between, But my head was going on, and I didn't know that. And anyway, again, I want to thank the committee and the many women that I've met this weekend. Thank you for your hugs and your kisses and your good words, kind words, loving words. I had it all in my head this morning where I was going to start and where I was going to go. Guess we're taking a little break. I'll tell you, what I do want to do is, a couple weeks ago, a sponsee of mine, I had been sponsoring her for over 10 years, and she passed away with 17 years clean. And so I want to honor Janice today for her work in recovery and with women. And a little over a year ago, and some of you may know her, a sponsee of mine, Rosalie from New York, she passed. She was involved in a very fatal car accident coming from an H&I meeting. And she had 29 years clean. So let's say hi for Rosalie. And then last but not least, I was sponsoring a woman, Esteria, and she was in recovery, had a few years clean, was in California, and she was waiting for a liver. And she didn't make getting that liver. So she's up there in that meeting in the sky that's probably going on about now. So let's give her a nice hand. I do want to acknowledge my very first sponsor is here today with me, and she's sitting back there. I've had 2 sponsors in recovery, and Jody has been there the past 26 years with me, and she was there in the beginning, and I am telling you, with my higher power and Jody saved my life. I mean, she took a wounded little baby and really mended me and put me together, and I will eternally be grateful for that. And a lot of things that I share today, I share things that came directly from Jody, you know, and but I was willing. I was willing to do whatever it took, because we can give each other directions, but if we're not willing to do it, it's not going to work, you know. What I do always is, before I share, I get on my knees, and because I've gotten on my knees for a lot less. I stole that from one of my sponsees. So when I pray, I get on my knees. So I got on my knees, and this is a prayer I always say before I share. And I ask God to please help me speak from my heart and not my head. And I ask God to please help me to be God-centered and not self-centered. And then I ask God to please help me touch the heart of that addict that needs to hear a message of Narcotics Anonymous today, so that they can stay clean just for today. And then I get up and I share like I'm sharing now, and I chit-chat until God shows up. And that's what I'm doing, in case you're wondering. I'm chit-chatting. Oh, God. There's a couple of things I always talk about, and, you know, I know that we all know how to use, and so I don't go into that. But I do like to share things before I got here, because I like the newcomer to know how hopeless and helpless and desperate I felt then. And I like to share a couple of things, because I know when I came in, I thought like I was the biggest, worst piece of you-know-what. And I really felt that, and I believed that for a long, long time. I was around here working steps and praying and putting one foot in front of the other and still believing I didn't deserve any of it. You know, I had to struggle through that, and people loved me until I could love myself. And in our Just for Today, it talks about learning to love ourselves, to be good to ourselves. And it took a long, long time for me to love myself. But you know what? I love myself today. And that's the important thing. A couple of things I always talk about is when I was 15, I had a boyfriend, and his name was Mondo, and I loved Mondo, and would do anything for him, and did do anything for him. And the first drug I put in my system was alcohol, and I was hanging around this bar, and Mondo was there, and he was at the bar, and I was in the back room, and I had seen him around school, and I really dug him. He was cute. He was Italian. He had peg pants and pointed shoes and DA haircut. You know, he was fine. So he was at the bar, and I was at the back room, and he waved to me, and I waved back, and he said, "Hi, Roseanne," and I thought, wow, he really digs me. He knows my name, you know. I was so sick and so lonely and so empty, you know, and anyway, Mondo and I were bopping around in the back seat of a car. I call it bopping for the sake of the children in the room, but we were bopping around the back seat of the car, and I got pregnant. And I like to share this because it's really, you know, especially at a women's meeting, but it's really an important piece and part of my life and my recovery. And so I got pregnant. I went to Mondo and told him I was pregnant. He said, "Oh, it's not my baby," you know. So I immediately felt rejected. And what I did is I just went into this denial, like, well, maybe I'm not really pregnant, but I was. And I was 16, and I had the baby. I had a daughter. And I remember not telling anybody. I was 6.5 months pregnant, living at home, and my mother came in the bedroom, and she, I guess, eventually came out of her denial and said, "Are you pregnant?" And I felt relief, and I said, "Yes, Mom, I am." And her response was, "How could you do this to me? You know, I wish the ground would open up and take me. How could you do this?" And I immediately felt shame and guilty and embarrassed. And a couple weeks later, I was watching Elvis Presley's debut on the Ed Sullivan Show. Some of you may know Ed Sullivan, and some may not. But I was watching Elvis Presley's debut, and I started to have cramps, and I'd just been about 7 months pregnant. And my mother called the doctor. By then, my mother said we were going to adopt the baby. She got an attorney involved, and of course, she asked me why didn't I abort, but it was too late. And so we got an attorney involved, and he drew up the papers and everything. And I had only seen a doctor once. So my mother called the doctor. The doctor said, get her to the hospital. I went to the hospital. And 20 minutes later, I had this baby. There was no pain and just mild cramps. And I told myself that, you know what, God really loves me, because the neighbors never found out. I was going to go home. We were never going to talk about it again. And I suffered with that for many years until I came into the fellowship and started doing some writing and some steps. But that was a very painful part of my life, and it was a turning point because I said, screw life, just screw life. And I was on my way. I was on my way to do whatever I could to just be against life and society and rules. And so that was painful for many years, and I'll catch up to that again a little later. But the other thing I talk about, and I know, when people are at meetings, I don't know about you women so much. I think the men do it a lot more. I don't know, but how we'll size each other up. Somebody will come to the podium. Like, for example, this morning, some of you may have seen me and already figured out my story and figured out where I was coming from and whatever, And maybe not. I don't think women do it as much as men, but I've heard from men. That's why I know men do it. I was at a meeting once, and a guy said to me, boy, I walked in, you were at the podium, you were going to speak, and I thought, oh, I should have gone to another meeting. I should have stayed home and watched the game. Here's some Susie Sunshine, and what is she going to tell me? And maybe she smashed her husband's Mercedes and drank a few cocktails, and that is not my story. And but anyway, the other thing that I talk about, I lived in, it was one of my lowest bottoms, although there were many, because you know that we hit many, many bottoms before we get here. And I was living on the streets of Watts. I lived on the streets for about a year and a half. I was in my early 30s, and I was real knee-deep in my addiction, and I lived on the streets, lived nowhere, and I used to get beat up on a daily basis, and I remember getting stabbed one time and walking down the alley just wanting and wishing and praying to die, because dying to me would have been merciful. Living was just too painful for me. And I believed once an addict, always an addict, because that's what we were told, and I didn't know about any recovery houses. Nobody said, let's get clean, and so I lived on the streets of Watts, and I tell this story because I need to remember it, and I don't like to get graphic, and I definitely don't say it to get graphic or dramatic, but I lived on the streets for a year and a half, and one day when I had 6 years clean, I was sitting in the kitchen with my sister having coffee, and she said, do you remember that time in Watts when I came to get you? And as she started to talk, I started to remember that time because I had forgotten it, and that's why I share it, because I forgot it. And she started to tell me, and I started to remember, but she had gone to an old man's house of mine in Watts, and his mother directed her to this neighborhood, and she came and she found me. And this was the scene. I was living under porch steps because I had met this preacher man. And he said, I always see you walking down the streets, and I feel really bad for you, but I don't know, I can't take you home, I'm a preacher, but let me go get you some clothes, clean you up a little bit, and I have a place underneath my porch steps, and you can stay there as long as you want, and I'll feed you. And so he took me to the Salvation Army, which a lot of people used to take me to the Salvation Army, and bought me some clothes. I went to a gas station, washed up a little, threw the other clothes away, because I don't know how long I had them on my body, and put these Salvation Army clothes on, and went to his house. And I lived underneath his porch steps. There was a little door, and he brought me a blanket and brought me some sandwiches and stuff. And that's where I stayed until I couldn't stay anymore. I needed my medicine. And but my sister came, and that's where she found me. And my sister had been coming to the neighborhoods looking for me and feeding me for a long time. Used to take me at home in the beginning, but, her husband threatened to kick her out and the kids. And so I couldn't stay with her anymore. But she came and got me that day, or came looking for me to feed me. And she told me, I said, what did I look like? And she said, and if you can compare that to today, you'll see the miracle before you. I said, what did I look like? And she said, well, you had straight hair and it was matted to your face and you were dirty and you had a half a mouthful of teeth and you had abscess sores all over your legs and you had gauze wrapped around them. And I said, what did I say to you? And she said, you had this beautiful smile. And you said, you know what, sis, don't worry about me. It's going to be okay. I'm going to get better and I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get my life together. Because that's what I had been doing all the time. I'd get busted, go to jail, clean up a little, go on the street. Eventually I started going to halfway houses, three-quarter-way houses. I'd be there, be top-notch inmate, top-notch modeled. I've always been a top-notch whatever because I knew how to play the game, and I was institutionalized. And so anyway, so she told me about that day, and I remembered. I remembered really what happened. And so I always tell that story because I don't ever want to forget where I've been. I don't want to get too clean or too good or work such a great program that I'm going to forget where I came from. I need to remember. And that's why I love working with newcomers, because it not only reminds me of where I came from, but that's not even it so much. It just, I'm empowered by a higher power to help another woman. And I believe when we say you're the most important person at this meeting, and what I like to share is what that means to me. That to me means that I've been given a gift. The 12 Steps of Narcotics Anonymous. I have been given a gift, and I can maintain my recovery if I work those steps. But only when I hit that 12th step if I agree to carry the message to another addict. Because if I don't, I'm going to go out and use and I'm going to die. I'm going to lose the gift. I've been given a gift under those conditions that I have to share and I have to give it away. And the more I give away, the more I get. Before I get into recovery, and I'm getting ready to jump there, I do want to share something that, first of all, I want to see the newcomers in the room with under a year. And I want you to stand up. Please stand up so we can applaud you and welcome you. I want to welcome you to the program of Narcotics Anonymous. And ladies, you don't ever have to go where you just came from. You don't ever have to use again. And we are here to help you. We will take you through that. And I just pray, my prayer this morning was for you, for God to please help me carry the message to another addict that's still suffering, because that's my purpose. The other thing that I'd like us to do is a group. I do an H&I meeting at a women's correctional facility. It's called Purgatory. Do you believe that? I'm an H&I kind of gal, and I do a meeting on Thursday nights at a women's facility, and it's wonderful. And I'll get into that a little later because that's kind of all the stuff that's going on now. But if we could, on the count of 3, just say, welcome, wonderful women, to Narcotics Anonymous. Okay, got it? 1, 2, 3. Welcome, wonderful women to the Narcotics Anonymous. Thank you so much. Because these women are behind walls. They're not fortunate enough to be at this meeting today. And so, when I share, and sometimes I take my CD in and we play it, and when they hear that, it blows their mind. They get so excited and tears come down there. It's just like if they were in the room tonight. They hear it and they love it, and their spirit feels it, and I can feel it when when they hear it. I look at their faces and they're crying and I'm crying, and but anyway, that's one of the things that I do today. I came into Narcotics Anonymous in the 70s. I came into, it was a Saturday Night Live meeting. That was the name of the meeting, Saturday Night Live, in the 70s in Venice, California. And it was a real hotshot meeting, and I felt I was real hip, and I was standing up against the wall, holding up the wall with the fellas, and there were some really fine men, because I hadn't seen any really fine men in a long time, and not a fine man with a car, they had cars. I had been walking for a long time. Oh, God, you know. And so it was in the 70s, and I was at this meeting, and I thought the meeting was hip, and the guys were hip, and, you know, I was checking them out, and I didn't care if they came in with women or not. And I remember what happened at that meeting. It didn't matter, you know how we can get sometimes when we're out there. We don't care. I didn't care anyway. So I'm at the meeting, didn't hear anything. I don't know if there was a speaker meeting, or I don't even know. But these women kept coming up to me, and they were giving me their phone numbers, and I would take them, and yeah, okay, you know, and they were just saying something. I don't know. I wasn't listening, but they were saying something. And I couldn't understand why the guys weren't hitting on me. Now, I was a mess. I can't even tell you, you know, I was really a mess. I mean, I told you about the half a mouthful of teeth and the hair, you know. I wasn't much beyond that. And I couldn't understand why the guys weren't hitting on me or asking me to go out for coffee, because I heard them talking about going out for coffee. But they kept sending these women over to me, and I thought, I got it. They think I'm gay. I figured that was it. You know, they thought I was gay, and so they were sending the women over, you know. Oh, God. In the minds of babes, you know, stuff we think, you know. So, anyway, I had been in and out of jail, and I had been in the penitentiary. I did a couple years there, and I had been in and out of jail. I had been to Sybil Brand. I don't know if there's any women here that have ever been to Sybil Brand in California, but yeah, there's a few veterans, and you know, I had been all those places, and the county jail, and I remember getting busted, and you know, getting sent to jail and not even knowing why I was there. You know, I'd wake up the next morning, and then I'd look at my pink slip, and I know why I was there. And, you know, it was usually disorderly conduct or, you know, pills with intent to sell, and, you know, just some Mickey Mouse stuff. I was never a big-time dealer, you know, although when I got here I said I was. I was trying to impress all of you, but I wasn't. And I know the times that, you know, I'd get busted when I was living on the streets, and the cops would pick me up. And sometimes I think they just picked me up to put me in jail to give me a roof over my head. You know, I think some of them really felt, you know. And they saw me walking out there all the time. But I remember getting busted and going to jail, and it was really no big deal. It was no big deal. I felt safe. I knew nobody was going to beat me up. I knew nobody was going to rape me. You know, nobody was going to steal my dope if I even had any towards the end, you know. And so it was not a big deal for me. And I had been in and out of NA for a while, and I had been to halfway houses and three-quarter-way houses, and like I said, jail. And I got here this time via recovery house. And it was my route. I don't promote recovery houses. I don't demote them. You know, it was my way of getting here. And I was 42 years old when I got here, and you're going to hear another miracle now. I was 42 years old when I got here, and I am 26 years clean, so I'm 68 years old. And yeah, I'm getting to that. And what's more powerful is, in August I'm going to be 69, and next year I'm going to be 70. Do you believe that? I probably would never say that if men were in the room. Not 70. I don't even know next year if I'm going to be able to say I'm 70, but thank you. But I'm like practicing, you know, I'm saying it now, getting it out, seeing how it feels, you know. But you know what? Two things that a miracle already is in front of me. One is the women in this room. You know, that's the miracle. That shows all of us that Narcotics Anonymous is working in all of our lives. That's the miracle. I could go right now, and that's the miracle. That's the message. That's the message. That's the message. You know, and the other message is that a hope to die dope fiend like me, that's all I wanted, drugs, you know, a mountain of drugs on a hill somewhere away from everybody, and I'd be fine, you know, or to die, that was the alternative, can be sitting before you today. Because Narcotics Anonymous, my sponsor, women saved my life, literally saved my life. I'm supposed to be dead. I tried to kill myself many times, couldn't do it. And there's a message in all that. And my message, I believe, is to sit here in front of you and tell you that Narcotics Anonymous works. It worked for me because I worked, and I will tell you, in front of my first sponsor, I worked my butt off. I wrote probably for 2.5 years straight, just about every single day. That's how willing I was, because I knew I was going to die. And I would call her, and I'd say, oh, this one and that one, and she said this, and she makes more money than me, and blah, blah, blah. And she'd say, Roseanne, did you write about it? And I would say, well, no. And she'd say, write about it, and call me, and we'll set a date, and you can share it. She had me write, and she had this 3-strike rule. If you talked about it the third time, you wrote. I mean, she listened to me, but the third time, forget it, right. And I would hate to call her, And I will tell you, she gave me direction last year to do 2 inventories. I did 2 inventories last year. This weekend, she gave me direction to write. She is a writing woman. And I'm the same way with my girls. You give it like you got it, and then you give it also like new things that you hear and stuff. But so I got here, I was 42 years old. I was in a recovery house. I was the oldest woman in that recovery house. I thought I was the oldest woman in NA. Now, today, 42 looks very young to me, and I think, why did I feel so old, But inside, I felt old. I remember the first time I looked in the mirror, and I really looked in the mirror, and I thought, you really blew it this time. You blew it, And, but you know what? It was a blessing, because I really did blow it. Because I was always, hip, slick, cool. I would fix up on the outside. I looked so good. I'd say, here I am, Flacco, just got out of a 30-day program. Here I am, showing, the man how good I looked, and be off running, sitting at the cooker with them or whatever, And so when I got here, when I was 42, I thought I was going to die. And I thought I was going to die probably for the first 1.5 years, every day. And I thought, you know what, I'm never going to make this. And I would wake up in the morning, and my head would say, they said they hated to come in our room for a wake up because they'd come in, and I'd be sitting up at the bed, and I'd say, I know I'm going to use today. And, these counselors just couldn't stand it, so they couldn't handle it. And so I remember calling Jody, and I'd say, I don't know what to do today. I don't know. Should I pray? Should I wash up first, take a shower? I don't know what to do. And I did not know what to do. I was that broken. I didn't know what to do. I'd call her up. I was terrified. I was in so much fear. So if you're in fear, I can tell you that it will pass. Fear was wonderful for me because it was a motivator. Because I was never afraid to go anywhere, do anything. I'd go to Sherm Alley looking for drugs or whatever. And, I shouldn't have been in the neighborhood anyway, And I would go and I was never afraid of anything, never. I was a tester, rob pills or something, give them to me to test, to see what the results would be. And I'd just take them, not a big deal. And it's God's grace that I'm sitting here healthy today, because I'm very healthy, thank you, God. And so I would call Jody with that, or I would call and say, I know I'm going to use today. Thank you for sponsoring me. You've been so nice. Thank you so much. I'm going to use. I know I'm going to use. And she'd say, Roseanne, why do you think you're going to use today? And I said, I just know it. I know, because I felt like rotten, no good, not deserving. And she'd say, Roseanne, you're not going to use today. It's your head. It's your disease. And it sits right here. And it tells you those things. So when it does, you just say, thank you for sharing, but no thank you. And that's how I talk to my disease today. Thank you for sharing, but no thank you. I don't need it, So anyway, I had to be taught how to be sponsored. I don't know if we understand that or we get that. And I said I wanted to talk about sponsorship today. My service, I do different service, but my service really is sponsorship. I want to take that woman and I want to walk her through the steps and give her all the direction and guidance I can, my experience, strength, and hope. And I want to be there when her higher power shows up in her life in those steps, it is the most exciting, wonderful thing. When you're working with a woman and that connection happens and you've been just a part of it, you didn't do it because I'm not God, but you've been a part of it, that is the greatest high in the world for me. And I think sometimes women don't sponsor because they feel inadequate and they don't know how to sponsor. And maybe the disease tells them whatever they tell them. But I can tell you, if you are clean and work in a program and work steps and have a sponsor, you can sponsor women. You know, there's somebody for everybody. I remember the first time I sponsored, I felt inadequate. So what I did when she came over, I told her to do some writing. I don't even know what it was. I just said, write about it, her feeling, write about it. And then she's bringing me her writing, and I'm sitting there to share. So I did the same thing my sponsor did. I gave her a highlighter, and I sat there with a little notepad. I didn't even know what I was going to write or what my sponsor used to write, But I remember my sponsor used to say, underline that, and I would underline something. So I prayed, and I had the pen, and she had the highlighter and everything. And I just asked God to please work through me. And I remember when she shared her writing, and there was something that popped out, and it touched me. And I said, oh, highlight that. And then, the more I did it, the more I understood, and the more I knew what to listen for and how to listen and hear stuff. And I love to sponsor. That has been my saving grace. That has been my saving grace. And I'll tell you, I don't sponsor women that don't sponsor women. Once I take them through the steps and they've got to that 12th step, they need to start sponsoring. Because to me, that's the whole purpose. My job as a sponsor isn't to be your running partner, isn't to go to court with you, isn't to help you get a job, although I've done all those things, but that's not my primary thing to do. My thing, and our sponsorship pamphlet says it, is to take you through the steps. That's it. It's real simple. I just think that we need to walk through that disease that tells us you're no good, but whatever it tells us, and give ourselves a treat, to sponsor women. But, and so when I sponsor women, I take them through the steps. And, I was in Florida and I sponsored some women, and a lot of clean time, and they had been through the steps individually. We had been through the steps, and they wanted to do a group workshop. I used to do workshops with them, and so the step working guide had just come out. So we had a meeting, and everybody agreed that they wanted to do the step working guide together, and that we would, share everything together. And once we committed to the group, that was it. Once you're in for the duration. And it took us 2.5 years to do the step working guide. I think there were 6 of us at the time, 6 or 7. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. And guess what? Each of those women have done it with the women they sponsor. They continue to pass it on. So when you're sponsoring one woman, it probably turns out to be 100. As the years go and as time goes and everything, and one passes it on. And that's what this is all about. And so Jody got me into the steps right away, and but I remember going to her, and everybody was talking about the first step, and women. I was at the recovery house, and they were coming home from meetings with their sponsor, and they were having these big assignments to do, and I remember going to Jody and saying, "I'm ready to do my first step," and she said, "Really, you are?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm ready." And she said, "Roseanne, I'm the sponsor, and you're the sponsee, and I will tell you when it's time." She said, "But right now, what I want you to do is don't use no matter what, and that is your first step." And that is the one step that I've been doing perfect for 26 years plus. I'm going to talk a little bit about the steps, and then I want to tell you kind of where I'm at now. And, I qualify as an addict when I tell you, where I came from and everything, but I like to qualify as a recovering addict. I like to tell you what I'm doing in recovery. And I don't tell you to boast or anything. I just share my experience, strength, and hope so you can see the joy I get out of it and the benefits of working with people and being of service. And I've told you already that my heart is with the women I sponsor and sponsorship. And, women call me and they ask for directions that I don't sponsor, but they want to know, a little more about how and what and stuff. And I love when they call, it's an honor. And I just feel that, God's given me a job to do. And, and when I'm guided and directed, that's what I try to do. And do the best of my ability. And so anyway, I just forgot where I had left off, where I was going with. I do that a lot. Now, if my girls were sitting in the front row, they would just let me know. But anyway, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the steps. I found it. I'm going to talk a little bit about the steps because I want you to know like what I got out of steps and what the miracle was for me. So I like to share my experience, not just my head what I think a step means, but I remember my second step, and I remember telling my sponsor, I said, we can jump over this. And she said, really? Why? And I thought, well, the insanity part, you know, I'm not insane, and we can just jump over it. And she said, well, did you ever do any crazy things? And I said, well, yeah, I did some crazy things, you know, but not insane. And she said, well, what does insanity mean to you? And I said, well, it means a woman in a padded cell. And she said, weren't you in an institution? And I said, well, yeah, but I was never in a padded cell. I never, you know. So anyway, she told me to write down some crazy things that, you know, I thought were kind of crazy. So this is what I wrote. This is my second step. I was living on the streets, and I was in Watts, and it was early in the morning, and I had turned a trick the night before, and I had fortunately got paid, because a lot of times I didn't get paid. My self-esteem was so low, I never wanted to ask for the money first, you know. But in the beginning, I was a high-class hooker, but, you know, it had been years. Anyway, that's when I was looking good. Anyway, so I had gotten $20 from this guy, and I went to Woolworths. I don't think Woolworths, Woolworths still happening? Yeah. Well, it's a 5 and dime store for those of you that don't know. So I went into Woolworths and I bought this outfit. The whole outfit cost $20, and I met this guy, and at the pool hall, and he gave me some pills. Crazy. Did not know me because he gave me some pills to sell. By the middle of the night, I had been going up and down. I had uppers and downers, and I was, you know, just out there. So anyway, it's 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking the streets, and I have this outfit on, and these cops pull over in their car. I'm walking, they're pulling over, and this guy says, get in the back seat of my car. And I was so indignant, and I said, excuse me, officer, what is your probable cause? He said, get your in the back seat of my car, you know. But I want to tell you the outfit that I had on. I had, this you need to close your eyes and visualize. What is our message, vision of beyond limits? Yeah. So this was the getup I had on, and I'm asking him what's his probable cause. I had a pair of red hot pants on, and they were hot. You know, they were real hot, and so the hotter they are, the shorter they are, so they were real hot. And I had a pair of red hot pants on, and I had a red turtleneck long sleeve sweater to match. And I had a pair of black fishnet stockings. Few holes in them. They were old, holes. And I had black plastic tie-up boots. You know, the crisscross tie. 6 o'clock in the morning in Watts, and I'm asking what's his probable cause. And I'm also telling my sponsor we can skip over that step. Oh, God, it's wonderful when we can laugh at ourselves. That's really healing. It really is healing. And, you know, we continued on. I remember doing the third step, and I did my very special own prayer, and it just, to my higher power, turning it over. And it was amazing because I kept doing the letter to God over and over and over again. You know, I wanted it to be perfect. And I did that, and I went on to my fourth step, and I did my fourth step like an autobiography. And my sponsor just said, pick up a pen, get some writing, get a tablet, pick up your pen, and every time you do, ask your higher power to help you to be thorough and honest. And she told me to write 20 minutes a day, and just make sure I do that every day. And I did that. And I remember being in the washer-dryer room with this recovery house right on the patio, and every day I'd be writing. And then I remember saying to my sponsor once, I said, when am I going to know I'm finished? And she said, you'll know. The pen will stop writing, and you'll know. And that's exactly what happened. I knew when I was finished with my fourth step. But There was a part in my step, and as I got to write about it, it became extremely painful. And I felt that if I wrote about it, I was going to use, and if I didn't, I was going to use. And I had a son that committed suicide when he was 18. And I didn't mention, but I usually do as I'm talking to Steph, share this, that I had abandoned my children. My son Russell was 3, and my daughter Rochelle was 2. And I had abandoned them because my old man was going to California, and he had dope in the car, and I wanted some of that dope. And so I took my kids to my mother's, and I told my mother I'd be right back. I told her I was going to the doctor's. I was in New York. My old man was on the way to California, and I left my kids with my mother, and I went with him. This disease not only kills us, it takes our babies. You know, it does whatever it can. And that's what happened. Now, I want to share at this point that I didn't leave my kids because I'm a bad person or that I was a bad mother. I left my kids because I had the disease of addiction, and it had a hold on me. And there's a line in our basic text, and I'm saying this to myself as well as to all of you women. There is a line in the basic text that I saw when I was 6 years clean. I want you women that are crying now to really listen to this. And the line says, "We are not hopelessly bad, but we are critically ill." And I remember at 6 years clean, I saw that, and I thought, wow. I internalized it. I had seen it before. That's why we have to keep coming back. We have to keep reading. We have to keep doing what we're doing till it clicks, till we internalize it. And I remember feeling, you know what? I am not a bad person. I did it because I was sick. Now, the things I did, were they bad? Absolutely they were. And they hurt a lot of people. But I didn't do it because I'm bad. I did it because I was sick. And what I want to do with you women that are really feeling this now, because I can see it in your face and your tears, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. And just remember the last time that you were out there ripping and running, and the things you were doing, and the people you were hurting, and the kids maybe you left behind, or the kids you might have ignored, or your old man, your old lady, your whatever, your parents, you know. And I want you to open your eyes. Now, the person that you are today, right now, this moment, because this is the moment we're in, would you do those things? Absolutely not. And that just, to me, proves that we are not bad people. My affirmation for myself and for all of you, I am a beautiful, perfect, loving child of God's. And I am filled with confidence and happiness. We are good women. We are good people. I'm going to tell you how special we are. Now, you heard my little story. I hope to die dope, being on the streets, ripping and running, ripping people off, left my kid, the whole 9 yards. The whole 9 years. And today I sit here able to share my experience, strength, and hope with all of you. You know, I am not a bad person. I'm a beautiful, perfect, loving child of a God, of a power greater than myself. And this is how special we are. You know, we've been out there doing our thing. And there are doctors in this world that go to school for years and years and years and get all these grants and spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on an education. And these doctors do that because they want to help people. They want to help save lives. We come into Narcotics Anonymous, and God blesses us with the ability and the strength and the courage and the experience to save lives. How special is that? We're special. We really are special. And one of my first affirmations that I had to say, and that was to look in the mirror and say, I am a beautiful, perfect, loving child of God's. And the first time I did that, I couldn't even look at my eyes. I couldn't do it. And then I had to write it on pieces of paper to put on the mirror, put it on the door going out, put it in my car, you know, and I would say it and not look at my face. I wanted to throw up. You piece of shit. You know, I wanted to throw up. But I kept saying it and saying it and saying it. One day, I woke up, And just like my sponsor said, one day, Roseanne, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it. You know, so, and I did. I woke up one day and I felt it. There's someone here, I was going to say a newcomer, but she was a newcomer when I met her, and it was years ago, and it was in Florida, and we met at a women's meeting, and I never told her this, but I'm going to share this. I had about, let me see, she has about 15 years clean now, 15, 25. I had about 15 years then, I guess, and I was sitting in a women's meeting, and I was sharing, and people were sharing, and they were looking at me. Now, 15 years clean. And all of a sudden, I looked at these women that I knew, and all of a sudden, I internalized, and I knew that they loved me no matter what. I knew that to my innermost being. That's a gift. And I was 15 years clean. Now, before that, I probably knew it at some level, or intellectually I knew it. But that day in that meeting, I remember looking at all these women, and I thought, just like today, I thought, you know what, they really do love me. And they would be there no matter what. I mean, if I went up to any of you, I know that I could go up to you and say, you know what, I really need to talk. And you might look at me weird or think, where is she coming? You know, whatever, or whatever. But you would be there for me, and I know that. I mean, you're there for me now. You're there for me right now, you know. And I'm here for you right now. This is no accident that each of us are in this room, sitting in the chairs that we're sitting, hearing what we're hearing, sharing what we're sharing, you know. So the other thing I want to say is, so I did this inventory, and I went to Jody, and I said, Jody, I can't write about my son. It's too painful. And she said, Roseanne, skip over it, because there'll be a day that we'll get into that, you know. And I didn't want to skip over it. I thought, oh, I'm not being totally honest. And she said, just skip over it. Just finish writing and skip over it. And, you know, and so I finished writing, and I did that, finished that inventory, and I went and I did my 5th step, and you know, she was so symbolic. I mean, she would light incense, and candles would be lit. I do the same thing. I have incense in our room now, you know, to ward off any evil spirits, you know. Hey, whatever it takes, right? And, but I remember going to her, and I remember doing my 5th step, and it was painful. The stuff that I did share with her, I relived my entire life, and I was so thorough and so honest. I mean, I wrote all those secrets, and I remember going to her, and I remember it was very painful. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, especially if you're in the middle, you know, of your 4th step, because it freed me. It really, really freed me. I mean, I have to tell you, it did not hurt me at all. I thought that there was some deep, ugly monster inside of me, and that if I shared all this, it was going to let that monster out, and it really didn't. It killed the monster. That's what it did. And so I remember her saying to me, you know, when you're finished with your 5th step, you may not feel all, you know, this. I guess I gave her that look, you know. She said, but, you know, you'll feel what you need to feel when you need to feel it. And I remember thinking, oh, but not me, I'm different. You know, I'm going to feel wonderful in the burning bushes and blah, 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 and, you know. Wrong. I finished it, and after that, she took me home, and I had to go to a meeting, and I remember this guy, Pepe. He was a spiritual giant, and some of you may know him, but he watches over all of us. And I remember saying, you're not here. Okay, he's not here. And I remember, thank you. Any excuse to come into a woman's meeting. Now he's going to tell all his buddies, oh, I was in the meeting and I changed the batteries, and you know, he's going to be talking about that for weeks. Anyway, so you know, I saw Pepe, and I couldn't wait to tell him I did my 5th step, and he said, oh, good girl, good, you know, and he was so wonderful and made me feel really good. And I'll tell you where I met God. I'm going to talk about my son a little bit, but I'm going to tell you where I met God. I did my 5th step, and I was at a meeting, and it was a step meeting. And, people used to say, God's in the steps, your higher power's in the steps, work your steps, you're going to meet your higher power. And I used to think, what step? Tell me what step. I want to know what step. And so I could hurry and do it. But this is where I met my higher power, and I met my higher power after I did my 5th step. It was a while later, maybe a month later, and I was in a meeting, and it was a step meeting. And they were talking about 11-step prayer meditation, and people were saying, well, where is God? And, is God in the sky, or is God in me? And can I call God higher power? Can I, and they were just all having this discussion, and I was listening. And all of a sudden, this feeling just came over me, and I felt my higher power. And I knew at that point that God is. And I never questioned it since. And I'll tell you, you that are fearful of writing and stuff and inventories, I believe that where that came from is once I got all that garbage out, I had to get all that stuff out. Because my higher power, my understanding then, lie deep within. And so I had to get all that out. And once I got it all out, I was able to feel. And that's how I get today. When I get jammed up and stuff's going on and then I need to talk about it, I need to write about it, because I need to feel that power. And my understanding of a higher power has evolved. My higher power is everywhere, does everything. He's in me, he's in you, he's in the sky, he's in this room, he's in your smiles, he's in your hugs, he's in the steps, he's everywhere. He's everywhere. He's in Narcotics Anonymous. He's got our back. That's all I have to do is keep getting that stuff out. How much time do I have? I'm going to go a little over because you know what? They jammed us up today, right? Can I do that? How much time? 10 minutes? Go where I need. Thank you. Okay. So anyway, I went through the steps, and I remember when I had to do my men's step. And the reason I'm going to share this with you is because I love it. I love the experience I had. And because I like to share my step experience with you, not just what I think about the step, what it means. I want to share my actual experience with you. And so it came time to do my men's list, and I did my list. And, my sponsor said the things we usually say, and not to worry about what you're going to do with your men's, but just the people that you owe the amends to, just write that list. And so I took my list to her, and my son Russell was at the top of the list. And she said to me, okay, Roseanne, she said, we're going to work with Russell now. And she had me do a son inventory. And so I did a Russell inventory, and what that was and what that is, for those of you that don't know, I did a son inventory just like I did my first inventory. I picked up the pen, and I asked my higher power, help me to be thorough and honest, and I started to write, and I wrote my relationship with Russell from the very beginning. I wrote the day he was born. It was such a wonderful day. I remember it was yesterday. I felt so special and deserving, and I wasn't into my drugs then. I knew my life would be wonderful then, and it was just wonderful. He was a beautiful, beautiful baby, and I wrote that, and then I started to write, like when my addiction started, and when, he'd cry, and it would get in my way of using, and how annoying that was, and how he'd cry, and I would just close his bedroom door so I could continue to use and not hear him, and it's very painful when I say those things. I mean, I know I did it because I was an addict, and I'm not I know all that, but I think, oh, God, it was very sad. I have compassion, And so I wrote all that stuff, and it was very painful. And I wrote the day I got the call that he had committed suicide, and I'd never seen him. I abandoned him when he was 3, and I never saw him again. And I remember the day I got that call, and I knew it was my fault, and I wrote about that, and I wrote just about all the pain. And I remember taking the letter. It was so painful for me, and I remember taking the letter to Jody and reading it and sharing it with her. And I cried, and she hugged me and held me, and she said, okay, now it's time to make an amends. What I want you to do now is go and write a letter of amends to Russell. And so I went, and I picked up the pen, and I asked my higher power to help me be thorough and honest. And And this was a letter that I wrote to Russell. I wrote, "Dear Russell, I am so sorry for any harm that I caused you. And if I were the mother then that I am today," and I say this to Russell now, "if I were the mother then that I am today, the woman that I am today, I would have been a wonderful mother, and I would have been a wonderful mother." And I signed it, "Love, Mom." And I took the letter to Jody and I read it. And I will tell you what happened when I read that letter. I read the letter, and as I was reading it, I had this feeling come over me, a strong, powerful feeling. And I felt Russell's presence. And I feel his presence now. And I felt his presence, and I felt that at that moment, he forgave me. And at that moment, I forgave myself just a tiny bit, but enough to stay clean one more day. And that's what I got out of the steps. And that's what you will get out of the steps, your own personal experience. There's so much happening in those steps. There's so much happening. Fun, healing, excitement, knowledge, awareness, God, you know. It's so much, so much. And, you know I have to wind down. I really hate to. I could go on for another hour. I have a lot of stuff to tell you. but I won't, you know. But there's a lot of things. I mean, what's happening with me now is a miracle, and I'm going to briefly go through it. But I live in St. George, Utah. I got clean in California, 4 years there, 20 years in Florida, and I moved to St. George 2 years ago to be with the sister that used to come and get me. And I moved there to be with her and hang out with her and to make her life a little more pleasant and just, you know, to be sisters. And it really was the ultimate immense. Not that I was going for that. I was going just to be with her and just to maybe lighten her load or lighten her life and hang out with my sister. So I had a beautiful condo on the beach, you know, from underneath the porch steps to a condo on the beach in Florida, you know. And I always say recovery gives us that stuff, but I had to work real hard, get good credit, and pay my bills, you know, to get it. But anyway, so I retired from a job. The other thing I want to tell you is that this little junkie broad, you know, I retired from a highfalutin company. I'll tell you later if you want to know what it was. But anyway, I was an executive assistant to the vice president, and I worked at that job for 17 years. You know, it was like really cool. This woman, here's some more hope for you ladies, this woman who got her GED in the penitentiary, so, you know, it works, you know. So I retired from that job after 17 years, and not only do I get a Social Security check, it's okay to be 65 plus because you get that check, it's wonderful, and I get a pension check from work for working there 17 years. So, you know, people say, "Oh, what do you do? Where do you work?" I say, "I don't," and then I say, "Who said that?" You know. But so anyway, so I left Florida. It was really tough leaving my sponsees. You know, but we have arrangements and we see each other and work with, I still work with them. And so I moved out here to be with my sister. And I've been with my sister for a couple of years, and it's time to move on. So I just moved out of her house. I was living there for 2 years. It's a long time to live with somebody. But anyway, I'm not anymore. And I moved to Nevada only because I have a little condo there that I moved into. It was a rental, long story. But so I live there. I live in Nevada now. But this is the deal I want to share. I mean, God's always working overtime in my life. And so I moved to Utah to be with my sister. And I stayed for NA. Because when I got there were 5 NA meetings. We now have 13 meetings a week. Meeting every day. I used to say, 5 meetings a week. How do I tell my sponsees 90 meetings in 90 days? You know, I can't. So we started more meetings, and so that's going on there. We're having our very first convention, June 6th, 7th, and 8th of this year. Yeah, it's happening. So I'm so excited about that, and it's really happening. And H&I is my passion. They weren't doing H&I when I got there, and we went into an adolescent facility. We've been there almost 2 years. It's rocking, and more people are coming in, you know. And I went out to Purgatory. I started doing H&I there, and I was there for myself 6 months because there's nobody else. Nobody else has 6 months clean time, the requirements, and blah. And I'm saying, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this myself. I'm supposed to have someone else. But anyway, so now there's a couple of us doing it. My sponsees are doing all their thing, you know. So it's really wonderful. So now I moved to Mesquite, Nevada. They have one NA meeting a week there. So is my work cut out? What's the message? I don't know, God. I have no idea. I'm saying to my sponsor, what do I do now? What should I do? I wonder how my life is going to evolve now. Where's my next step? And I'm thinking, hello, 1 meeting a week. You know, I'm going to be very busy. So, you know, whatever, you know, I'm just putting one foot in front of the other and doing the best I can. And I just went through some heavy pain about moving out from my sisters and stuff. And I'll tell you what it's taught me and what I really try to do. I do something called the Golden Key. It's not any approved literature or anything, but it's like a powerful third step. And what happens is when someone comes to my life and I'm having a problem with them or anything that there's a problem and I need to let go, you know, that third step stuff that you need to let go. What I do is I do a golden key, and I call it the most powerful third step. And instead of thinking about that people, places, or thing, that situation that's going on, I try to think about my higher power. You know, I do the third step prayer. I might do it 50, 100 times. You know, I do what I can. The other thing that I do to live in the moment and to let go of all this stuff and to really be in the moment where we are right now, in this moment, which is perfect. What I try to do is something I heard lately. A sponsee went to her sponsor, and she was constantly complaining, kind of like me, like us. And she was complaining about everything, and her sponsor said, this is what I want you to do for a year. I want you to say, I am so grateful for everything that I have. I have nothing to complain about. Just go and say that. So the sponsee went on her way, and she said, I want you to say it for a year. Every time some of this stuff comes up, the stuff that's valid, when it comes up, I want you to say, I am so grateful for everything. I have nothing to complain about whatsoever. I want you to say that for a year. 6 months later, the sponsee goes to her sponsor and says, you know, it's been 6 months and all this stuff is going on and, you know, and I don't know what to do. And her sponsor said, I am so grateful for everything. I have nothing whatsoever to complain about. And the sponsee got it like that. Because, you know, when we do stuff that works for us, then once it works, we give it up. We don't do it anymore. So we need to keep practice. And I meditate. I meditate every single morning. You know, I get quiet with God. I remember a long time ago saying to my sponsor, 20 minutes in the morning, I got to get to work. And she said, you know what, Roseanne? God gave you 24 hours a day. If you can't give God 20 minutes, something's up with that, you know. So I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time with God. I mean, now especially that I've made the move and my life is like, I'm not sure where. I think I'm in that hallway and I don't know. But anyway, I am where I am. So I try to live in the moment and I do a lot of meditation. I listen to a lot of tapes and I do a lot of reading, or just for today every morning. And I know some women are getting restless and stuff, so I'm going to close. Before I close, I just want to thank you all so much for your smiles and just your being with me during this meeting. It feels really good. I feel really connected, for having me and your patience. And you women are leaving 5 minutes before the miracle. This is my message. Well, it's okay, and I didn't mean that to be a dig, because I'm not there. No, no, and you know what? I really didn't mean it. I'm not like that. I'm really not like that. I'll go up to somebody on a one-on-one and say something, but the reason I said that is because my message, I said all that I've said today to share this message with you, because this right now is my message. And I said all that to say this. When I had a year clean, I had, picked up my cake. I was celebrating. It was wonderful. And after that, things got a little lull. It was like, I wasn't getting all that attention. And I said a prayer to my higher power. And the old timer said, be careful what you pray for. So I said a prayer to my higher power, and I said, God, the past year I've really been good. Every morning I've prayed, every night I've prayed, I've thanked you, haven't asked you for a lot of things, but I need to feel special. I need to feel special. People were with families and stuff, and I said, I really need to feel special. Now, in my heart, I wanted either an old man or a car. That's really what I was praying for. But I didn't want to say it because, the old timer said, be careful. But this was the answer to that prayer, and this is really my message. It was 2 weeks before Christmas, and I got a Christmas card. And I was in California. I was getting ready to go to an NA meeting, and my sister in New York called me, and she said, Roseanne, I want you to sit down because you got a Christmas card, and you're going to really be surprised. And she started reading the card to me, and it said, I'm taking the first step at finding you. And I need to know that you're out there somewhere. And you won't know me by name, but maybe you'll remember September 10th, 1956. And it was from the daughter I gave up for adoption. She found me 26 years later. And I can tell you, ladies, without a doubt, I did nothing to make that happen. I was doing the very same thing that you women are doing. I was putting one foot in front of the other. I was doing this program to the best of my ability. I wasn't using no matter what. And the miracle happened. And my sister said to me, and this is my message. My sister said to me, Roseanne, tell me how you feel. Tell me how you feel. And this is the way and my daughter's name is Annette Rose, by the way. She had signed it, Love Annette Rose. And this is how I felt, and I'm telling you this. This was my message from my higher power. I felt that God said to me, Roseanne, I love you. I have always loved you. And I've always been there for you. And that there's a master plan, and it's perfect. And that's all you have to do is stay clean and help another addict, and I'll take care of the rest. And I can tell you God's been taking care of the rest ever since. And this is the message of Narcotics Anonymous. What is our message? The message is that an addict, any addict, can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. Our message is hope and the promise of freedom. When it is all said and done, our primary purpose can only be to carry the message to the addict who still suffers, because that is all we have to give. I'm an addict. My name is Roseanne. Thank you.